former Wales international, hometown hero, Cardiff born, Cardiff bred, Mr. Joe Ledley. City Legends with Joe Ledley from Stockholms. Thank you to Stockholms, of course. Big shout out to Cardiff Classic shirts in the corner as well. They've got some awesome match-worn shirts signed by Joe as well. If you want to have a look or if you want to buy, crack on. But just a little bit of a layout of what's going to go on. Do part one, about an hour. Myself and Joe are going to take Joe through some stories and stuff from his career. Have a little break. You can have photos and stuff like that with Joe if you want in the break, and then the second part we will open the floor to you lot, which will be very, very interesting. And we'll let you some questions. We'll let to there. But Joe, welcome. Looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, I am actually. I've done a few of these. Majority of them have been Glasgow and a few rugby players. So this is my actual first time in Cardiff by myself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, thank you to Jordan for putting this event on and yourself as well. So please be nice to me when you're doing these questions later on. I know what you want to ask, but no, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, obviously, for all of you to come. It means a lot to me. So hopefully we'll have a good night and hopefully better than that game. The England result. I was ready to do that. So that's not going to happen.
Right, there we go. So we will start with just talk about the early years a little bit. Obviously you grew up in Cardiff. Tell us a bit about growing up in Cardiff, but also getting picked up by Cardiff and that sort of progression from that, and what you were like as a kid.
Yeah, I was brought up in Fairwater. Quite a rough area, rough background. A lot of police and stuff like that, a lot of my family. I played for Danes Court, my local team. There wasn't a team in Fairwater at the time, so I played for Danes Court. I got scouted at the age of 9, went on trials and got through. And all of a sudden it was called Centre of Excellence at the time, wasn't academy. It was basically just playing at Leckwith and on a hockey pitch. So you know what you see now is unbelievable with the facilities they've got. And then from there I didn't look back. You know, I was so hungry to be a footballer, change my family's life, change myself as well. So yeah, very grateful, very lucky as well.
I played for Danes Court as well, but I didn't play for Cardiff, Wales. That was interesting. So what were you like as a kid? Were you someone who football kind of kept you out of trouble? Were you someone who got into a bit of trouble, or were you pretty good?
Yeah, I got into trouble at a young age. You know, I bought a car with my mates when we were 15. Used to drive the car around the streets, which nobody really knew. But got into trouble a few times. But I was so dedicated. You know, when you're with your friends and you see what happens with alcohol and drugs, you know, I was completely against that. And just wanted to be a footballer, you know, work hard, go out there and give 100% when I was training. And like I said, it was all about changing my family's life and myself as well. So, you know, for me, it was just so important. And I loved the game. I loved playing football. You know, my family, massive Cardiff fans. And I used to go down there when I was young as well. I was in the Bob Bank, right at the back on the wall. I think it was Block H. And I just fell in love the minute I was there. You know, it was a fantastic stadium, Newport Park. We're talking about it downstairs, and the atmosphere we used to build there was just iconic.
Yeah, we talked about the humping pitch as well, like if you were low.
Yeah, like a camel.
Yeah, but like because you were at the back.
Not at all.
Block H. Yeah. So, were you naturally gifted, or were you someone who had to work hard? I know you obviously worked hard to get where you got, but I mean, was it someone as a kid who come naturally to you, or were you someone who had to train?
People might laugh, but I was actually really quick when I was young. Really fast. Yeah, I know, yeah. I was a winger, I was left winger. I used to win all my sports days, everything like that. I was really fast. But then you could see, obviously I had to adapt longer in my career. But no, I used to win everything, the fitness tests, the lot. I was so dedicated. I always wanted to be hard work, and I think I kept that with all my career. You know, every training session I'd work as hard as I can. I'd try and be the highest stats and stuff like that. So hard work and dedication definitely goes a long way, and I say that to any child, any kid who wants to be a footballer. It's all about dedication.
Yeah, so you mentioned like your family's Cardiff fans, obviously you at the back of the bog bank. You also mentioned downstairs that when you were little, Liverpool was your team, unfortunately. But as you grew up, like what was the dream? Was it to play Champions League? Was it to play for Wales, Cardiff? Like what was the kind of long-term dream?
It was just to play for Cardiff at the time. You know, this is the team which you go out and watch, you know, every week and see those players on the pitch. You wanted to be them. Same as everyone's dream in this room, you know, everyone wants to be a footballer, as simple as that. And when I was there watching the game, I always dreamt about hopefully being on that pitch. One day it will happen, but you know, for me it was just all about dreaming.
When you got the scholarship, or probably a YTS back then, wasn't it? How did you sort of find? Did you have like an individual meeting, or did someone have to like break the news to you that you've got that extra bit, like the YTS?
Yeah, when the minute you leave school, you'd have a meeting. It's do or die really, whether you're going to make it or not. I had a meeting with the head of directors, Matthew Crockett at the time, and Terry Moore, and they offered me a scholarship, which is, you know, absolutely fantastic. Any parent would be, you know, so proud. But I actually had a scan. You have a scan, and I had a murmur on my heart, so I had to have a few scans, which is bizarre because I was so fit and a bit of a shock at the time. Went for the scan, didn't realise if I was going to make it or not. The scans were fine, and then it was just sort of a blessing in disguise, really.
That's quite mad, because obviously you think of people like Christian Eriksen and stuff. We've seen players have heart problems, but obviously back then there was nowhere near the same technology in terms of finding it and stuff like that. But obviously, you know, you were fine going into it. With the YTS, you're from an era where they were still doing jobs around the ground, cleaning boots. I think I read somewhere that Cav was your, like whose boots you cleaned. Did you do anyone else's, or was it still always Cav?
No, God bless him. I did Chris Barker as well, Gary Croft, Barks, obviously, you know, the passing of him was devastating, but he was a tight bastard. You know, normally you get £100 here and there, because, you know, that for me was a lot of money. I was on £90 at YTS, and you'd be there all day cleaning boots. I was on the away change room Tuesday. Midweek was an absolute disaster. You'd in from 8 o'clock in the morning to do your training session, double session. You'd go back, get some food somewhere in Grangetown or Canton, and then you'd come back for the game. I was ball boying, and then I was on the away change room, so you're hoping and praying that at Newport Park they always had a massive tray of sandwiches, so you're praying that they left a few. Majority of them it wasn't, but sometimes you get lucky and you'd have a few sandwiches, and then you wouldn't leave Newport Park till about 12, 1 o'clock. You have to clean the boots, and you know, it's a full on, you're there all day, and to be fair, I think that's what football's about. I think it's that sort of what young kids need to realise what it's about.
Yeah, do you think they miss that now, like with the, you know, the teenagers as they go into the academies and they sign up about sort of 16, 17, they don't do those jobs around the ground. Do you think they should do it, or do you think it needed to change?
I understand why it has changed, but for me, I would rather see young kids do it, because for me, I was a bit like, I don't want to do it. The only way I can not do it is to be in the first team. So it pushes you a little bit more to go out there and try and improve yourself and be into that category where you don't have to do jobs. So for me, I definitely think it's a massive input into individuals and players as well.
A lot of the players who were in that first team squad as you came in, there's a lot of interesting personalities, different types of people, obviously a different era as well in terms of off the pitch and how they train, how they behave and stuff like that. Obviously used to go out a lot more. Was there anyone in that changing room that was quite harsh with you and the young players? Not necessarily nasty, but like maybe a bit difficult?
No, they weren't too bad. Like I said, Barks was quite harsh, and that's typical Yorkshire guy, and made us do a lot of things which we needed to do, and like you said, clean his boots, make sure everything is precise. But apart from that, I think the whole team was really down to earth. A lot of the Welsh boys are in there who I knew, James Collins, Danny Gowardon, Robert Earnshaw, Rhys Weston. So they looked after me since such a young age, and without them, probably helping me when I come into the first team, I probably would have been here now.
So you came into the first team at a very young age. Do you remember the moment that you got told, the first time you were going to play in that first team squad, and who told you? How did you feel in the run up to it, and whatnot?
Yeah, it was a Carling Cup then. It was Milton Keynes away, and Lenny Lawrence was the manager, and he brought a lot of us youth players. I think it was Nicky Fish and Michael Parkins at the time, and when they wouldn't say anything, it would be up on the board, so you look and then you see the names, and I was in there, and I was just like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. I had to message my family to tell them in the team. They went, and I think I came on for the last 15 minutes, but you just pinch yourself because you've been watching these players, and you're in the bus, you're on the team coach, you're there, and you're just thinking, I can't believe I've actually done it. And no one can take that away from you. However, I've done alright, I didn't do great, it wasn't the best of games, but deep down I just thought, I've done it now, and that's something which nobody can ever take away from you.
Yeah, especially as a hometown boy, and that it's the dream, innit? You've achieved that dream, but then also you want to kick on and achieve other things. How was it? Because obviously you were 17 when you made your debut. Yeah. That is still a kid, isn't it? So how did you find it training with fully grown men, fully grown professionals? Because it must have been points where it's a bit what's going on?
No, do you know what? I was fucking unbelievable in my first training session. You can ask me, obviously, if you get Earnshaw, Danny Gavin, anything like that. I had this first training session at Treforest, and like I said, sometimes you just prepare yourself to play with the ITS, and then all of a sudden the assistant manager, Butfield at the time, said, Joe, you were the first team. And I was like, right, here we go. I went there, and it was a possession-based training session, which for me as a midfielder is perfect. And I don't think I gave the ball away once. It was that good. And then Gav's come out and went, Jesus Christ, I've never seen anyone do that. Didn't give the ball away once, and then all of a sudden, since that training session, I was getting picked regularly to train, and then sort of went into the first team. But I just never got nervous as a kid. Any big games, anything like that, I wasn't a nervous person. I've played with loads of players over my whole time. Some people will be sick in the toilet before games. Some people, would be shivering. But for me, I just thrived against big things, and I just never got nervous. For me, that was just an unbelievable honour to be in with the first team.
So you don't get nervous, but you said downstairs you're super superstitious. What's some of those superstitions then? Because I would almost associate, if you got superstition, it would almost go hand in hand with nerves in some ways, but obviously not. But what were your superstitions going into the games and stuff like that?
It was all different things, depending on the result. But my main two was I always had to put my right sock on before my left, and then I had to put my right boot on before my left. And obviously, depending on certain results, maybe I'd have to eat the same food or have the same drink and do the same sort of things. So yeah, it depended how the run was going. You know, I'd get on to further things when we probably hit the whales and the beard and stuff like that. But yeah, I was quite superstitious when I was a player, and I don't know why. And maybe I just thought if I don't do that, then I'm gonna have a shit game or we're gonna lose. So yeah, I was quite superstitious.
Being a Cardiff lad, playing for Cardiff, obviously meet the world, etc. How difficult is it to keep a lid on it when you play against them knocked down the road? Because I know what I would feel like.
Yeah.
So I just wonder what it's
I remember when we played, first time we played Swansea, because it hadn't been played for a while, was in the Cardiff Cup. And we had a team meeting. We had a team meeting the night before, and the coaches were all like, right, discipline is key, like, don't do anything stupid, just keep your head, da-da-da-da. I went to the room, I've got my mates going, you make sure you fucking smash da-da-da. Make sure you beat these young bastards. Anyway, I remember first 10-15 minutes, the ball got played into Leon Britton, and I went steaming in, took him off his feet, yellow card. I was like, I looked at the bench and they were fuming at me, and he was like, we just told you yesterday, but I couldn't help myself because it meant so much to me to be against, you know, Swansea and and to play against them. You know, obviously the emotions, you know, take over, and it ruined my game because I was so cautious. I didn't want to get sent off, and I couldn't get too tight to certain players. But you know, when you're a Cardiff boy and you're playing against them, you just want to smash them as much as you can.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the way. You mentioned Lenny Lawrence, obviously, was the manager who finally got us over the line in the Championship. In terms of Cardiff, like, who was your favourite manager? Like, who do you think helped you the most in terms of the game and stuff like that?
Yeah, I only had two. It was Dave Jones and Lenny, and you know, I'm always in debt with Lenny Lawrence for what he done for me. You know, gave me my opportunity, showed people what I was capable of doing, but the team, you could see obviously we're under financial difficulty with Lenny and Salman and everything like that, and you see your mates going, Danny Gabardon, James Collins, so it was quite difficult. But then when Dave Jones came in, it was just a breath of fresh air. It was, you know, the signings were brilliant, the players we had, the environment. I felt a little bit, didn't know what was going to happen because I was playing regular under Lenny, and I thought Dave Jones, quite a high profile manager, maybe he could see something different in me and maybe not play me or something. But he was brilliant. He started me all the time. He brought in fantastic players. We had some great times together as well.
Dave Jones was really interesting to me because obviously as a fan, I had some great times under him without quite getting over the line. But obviously I speak to like Andy Campbell, and they butted heads, fell out, and Andy was training with the reserves, so he's not got a good word to say about him. But then you speak to people like yourself and Kev and Jay, and they'll all say the same thing, like he did so much to help them. Why do you think there's such vast differences in opinions from the players who played under him?
The thing is, you can't please anyone as a manager, you know, especially when you're not in the team. There's always going to be a downer on the manager himself. Do I believe he was a good man management? No. He wasn't tactically very good. Sometimes he wouldn't even turn up in training. You know, we'd go down to the Vale and he wouldn't even be there. Maybe Terry Burton at the time, who was a fantastic coach, really helped me develop at the time, and Dave was never there. And some of the off-field things we used to do was not great, and we could basically do what we wanted. But I respect him a lot for what he achieved and what we done. We should have, with that team, we should have got promoted 100%. It was the best team I've ever seen in the Championship, and I think the off sort of field was the main factor. He couldn't control it.
I was going to say, didn't he basically have a loose rule of something. You know, if you did quite well, you were basically allowed to go off the piss and stuff like that. But if you lost or the result didn't go your way, then you had to hold back or hold off.
Yeah, if you're winning anything, it's brilliant. You remember away trips, we would get on the bus, you'd order your fish and chips, you'd have whatever you wanted, and then a few of the senior boys would pipe up and be like, oh, let's get some beers, and we'd stop off licence. Then we'd get a few crates of beers on the coach and have a drink and get home, and then somehow you'd have to get a taxi back. But it was a massive drinking school. I was with them. It was me, McCormack, Whittingham, Tony Capaldi. We would go to training, we'd drink after, go back in the morning, drink. But it wasn't just me. It was Jeff Whitley. He was a disgrace. Honestly, he would come in stinking, but he couldn't even kick a ball at certain times. Jason Kumas was the same. He was bad. Paul Parry, Alan Lee. There's so many players over the years where you just think, do you know what, this is not right, this is not what you need to be. I could get away with it because I was still young and I was still fit, but some of the states, some of the senior players would come in, they'd have to get turned away without making sure that Mark Kennedy was bad. On a Sunday, Monday he's going to come in, he's going to be half cut. So, big drinking school, and that's probably why we didn't get promoted, sorry.
I was going to say, is it true that Jason Kumash used to drink like pints of Baileys? Someone said, I can't remember who told me that, someone who was from the squad.
Do you know what? I didn't really go out with Kubi much, but what an unbelievable player he was. He was technically one of the greatest players I've ever seen. He would glide past people and his right foot, left foot, he could hit a ball which I've never seen before. He was so underrated, but then again, it was just that professional side of him which let him down. And I played with him with Wales as well, but what a fantastic signing he was. And he loved Cardiff. He come back twice, I think, and he was brilliant. Some of the goals he scored, and you've seen him do it. He was fantastic to play with.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's in the top 3 most gifted players to ever play for Cardiff. Like, he is unbelievable. Both times he came on loan, in fact. So before we I want to talk obviously about when you ended up leaving Cardiff. We're going to get to that. But before we do that, I would like to talk a little bit about Wales and your sort of the early part of your Wales career when you made your debut. Obviously a proud moment. Were you expecting that call up at that time, or was it a bit of a surprise? Or
yeah, I was expecting it, to be fair. Not just being big-headed. I was on the top of my game when I come into Cardiff. I was 17. I was playing week in, week out, and obviously when John took over, you can see in the papers a lot of the senior players leaving. And to be fair, being in such a small nation, there's not many players to pick from, and that's the reason why where we are. And I was playing the championship, I was doing very well, and when I got that call up, it was the biggest honour. Playing my first game at Cardiff to represent your country, I don't think anything would be bigger than that, and it was just unbelievable. And to be fair, with John, at the time, again, it was just a bit of a shit show. You'd watch the whole game of highlight. It wouldn't even be highlights, it was just, right, we're playing Germany, for instance, and we'd watch the last game. It was a full 90 minutes and nobody's talking. So I remember Ernie and Gabs would be like sleeping, and he wouldn't know. But the man management was not great. But now when you retire, you look back, he done it for a reason. He threw us all these youngsters in the deep end to gain so much experience, and it paid off massive. And he probably didn't get the credit he deserved. And we were one of the worst ranked teams ever, but you could see the route he wanted to go down.
Yeah, he tried to start that sort of revolution, if you like, of Welsh football, of bringing all those young players through at the same time and giving them experience, like you say. Just flipping back to Cardiff, obviously you had a range of different emotions and moments. I think one of the most successful periods during that time was obviously like sort of 07, 08, around that time, FA Cup final run is obviously legendary, like really, because it's not something you really expect as a championship club to get to the FA Cup final. As a player going through that run and gathering the momentum, but also as a Cardiff boy, what's that like? Because there's got to be two sides to you, like obviously the professional who's playing game by game and that, but as a Cardiff fan you've got to be thinking, bloody hell, we just played at Wembley in an FA Cup semi-final and I've just scored the winner and now we go to the final. Like.
Yeah, I do give a shit as long as it stayed 1-0. Honestly, I just thought, you know what, hopefully it's my day. And I remember the striker went through actually against Barnsley, one-on-one with the keeper, and I thought, oh no, if he scores it's going to be complete. He scuffed it wide, and it should have been 1-0 really, as a one-on-one. And you know, that's the most I've got my hip up, because I have such bad hips now, but that was the highest. And I just looped over the keeper. I knew the minute it left my foot he wasn't going to get it. And to see, you know, the Cardiff fans there at Wembley and the roar. I remember when I went in the uproar, I didn't know what to do. Just couldn't believe it. All my family, all my friends were there, and I just thought, you know what an unbelievable occasion for me personally and my family, you friends, and I'm just glad to finish 1-0.
It was an incredible day, which obviously, as you went into that Portsmouth game, I think most Cardiff fans thought that we had a pretty good chance. You know, FA Cup final, you're probably expecting to play one of the big boys. So to get there and then be playing Portsmouth, I think, being honest, we probably all thought we had a really good chance. And even on the day, you know, it feels like a bit unlucky, and there's a few things maybe which, you know, could have been different. Like, how was it for you going into it? Were you quite confident, or did you feel like the underdogs? What was it like?
Oh, definitely the underdogs. You know, looking back now, I think cheeky bastards. You can't have Carnu, Tucker, Glenn Johnson, David James, Saul Campbell, Distan, and a small club as Portsmouth. It's impossible. You know, I'm glad financial fair play, because they would have been deducted points. So, but to play against them, you know, I think Diarra in midfield, I wasn't as of Glenn Johnson on left hand side, but he went to Madrid afterwards.
Yeah.
So you look at their team, you just think,
You fucked him up.
Yeah, you make it look good.
I like this move. I'm not Glenn Johnson to little boys, no. But yeah, it should have happened, to be fair. But just to be there in general, I obviously to have a winner's medal would have been unbelievable achievement. But just to be in the final itself was fantastic. To see everyone travelling up in numbers and friends and family was. You pinch yourself, because, you know, championship team normally in FA Cup don't really see much. So what an occasion! Lost 1-0. Had a few chances actually. Could have been a different story if Enkelman, you know, didn't have his wrists on at the time, and things happen in football.
Yeah, and I think from a fan perspective, I think most people you speak to felt that Aaron Ramsey should have started that day. Is that a feeling in the squad? Because, like, as a fan, especially when you look back, he was banging for coming into the team. He had played quite a bit. He was ready, and it felt like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, you know, I was quite lucky in my era. I had a lot of the youngsters coming through. You know, Darcy Blake, Chris Gunter. But when Aaron came on, he was 16 at the time, and I've never seen a kid in my life do what he done in training. And bearing in mind, we've got very good players like Steve McPhail, myself, Whittingham, but he just dominated it. He always wanted the ball, which I was a bit, even though he'd give it away a lot, he would never shy away. He always wanted to demand it. And I was thinking, this guy is different. And I knew he was destined to be the player which he has been and still is. You know, he offers so much as a player, and it was just great to see him achieve what he needed to achieve. But
You started that.
I think he should have. I don't even know who was set in the fields.
Gary Ray.
Gary Ray. Yeah, get him out. And
Get off the fence!
I would have liked to see you know, it would have been me on the left, Whittingham on the right, McPhail and Ramsey, you know, it'd be really great midfield.
He did try and dodge the question first, didn't he?
He's like a politician then,
Still bits. Hindsight's a great thing, like that.
In that year, that season,
Hindsight's a great thing.
that is true. It's easy to say afterwards, isn't it? But
Hindsight's a great thing.
we all said it on the day as well.
Yeah,
But like,
okay.
I don't know why I'm putting that out. In the same year, I think Wolves and Everton made bids and inquiries for you. Was that something that you were aware of? Obviously, you would later go on to leave, but like at that point in that FA Cup run, were you aware of it?
Yeah, my agent told me at the time, Everton, and I think it was Wigan and Wolves. Well, Wolves, I spoke to Wolves actually. One of the chief execs spoke to my agent, but that sort of time I wasn't prepared to leave. Obviously, I think Wolves might be in a championship going for promotion. I think they actually did get promoted, but Everton was a big one for me. I would have probably have gone, but it wasn't a confirmation of a bid. They were just wary of what I was achieving at Cardiff. So yeah, I had a few interested at the time, but I was just concentrating after that FA Cup to go back and then try and get promoted with Cardiff.
Yeah, so I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think you still get grief sometimes. I think it's fair to say about the leaving, and I also feel like you've never really been given your opportunity or an opportunity to fully tell what happened in your story. And I mean, I said to you earlier, like, the year you left, Peter Ridsdale absolutely hung you out to dry in the press. But as a player in your early 20s or whatever, like, you're not in a position to respond to that. How difficult is it for a young man who's, there's obviously a lot of, tabloid rumours around Cardiff that people are in for you, you're going to go, your contract's running down, and then the chairman or the chief executive comes out and says he's playing like his head's been turned. It's not, in my opinion, that's not the way you should go about things, but what's that like for you at that point? Like, take us right back to that point.
Yeah, obviously, see the chairman come out, which don't know anything about what you're doing day in, day out, and accuse you of something which is, I'll tell you the whole truth now, and which really happened. It's the biggest load of shit I've ever read in my life, but I wasn't bothered, I didn't care. I just wanted to play football, and I remember Stoke come in January, deadline day. £6 million, which is about 50 million now. How was that good? There's £6 million, and my phone went. I was actually at Aubrey Arms on the way towards Cowbridge with my wife, and my phone rang, and it was Peter Ridsdale, and I was thinking, well, this is weird because I don't have a connection with him at all. So I answered it. And he said, well, we just had a bid from Stoke, £6 million. I said, right, okay. So I'm just with my girlfriend, who's my wife now, just having food. He said, right, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes and I'm going to need an answer from you what you want to do. So I said, yeah, no worries, put the phone down, spoke to my wife, and I said, I think I should go. I think they've struggling with a lot of money. I've got 6 months left. I'm on the top of my game. It's brilliant, the opportunity to play in the Premier League. So, rang me back. I said, he said he made his mind up. I said, yeah, I want to leave. And he said, right, you're telling me Joe Ledley wants to leave. I said, yeah, I want to go. He said, okay, leave it with me. Put the phone down. Didn't hear a word from him. Looked on Sky Sports, bid rejected. I was meeting up with Wales that night, so I messaged Mark Evans and said, Mark, I'm not coming to the camp. He said, yeah, not a problem. I spoke to John Toshak, you stay home because you still might be going. Ridsdale's El Porto, Tosh used to bring us to El Porto down Penarth all the time. Fucking hell, there was a piss up that was. There was all the crowds, all the steaks, wine, a lot. And Ridsdale obviously knew about it, so he's come storming in. I wasn't there. And Paul Parry at the time I was in the room with said, he rang me and said, Rhys still's here, looking for you. I said, why? He said, well, he thinks you've gone to Stoke. I said, tell that silly cunt. Obviously, I'm not going to Stoke. Time went, I met him away. I was like coming back to Cardiff then, obviously after international duty, and I spoke to Peter. I said, listen, I'm quite disappointed in, you know, I told you I wanted to go. And he said, but honestly, Joe, don't worry about it. We're going to give you a brand new contract. I was one of the lowest paid, but anyway, so you know. One of the best players, but the lowest players. So I said, right, okay, yeah, not a problem, Pete. I look forward to speak to my agent. We'll sort it out. Nothing.
So you were happy. So you were. Whilst you said you would leave, you were also happy to stay. Had signed a new contract.
Well, I would have. That week I would have signed a brand new one, yeah, and I would have had to be what other players were on, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right.
And in fairness, the age that you were at, the form you were in, you deserved to be on the same as the sort of top earners in that squad and that team at the time. So he comes out and says that. Dave Jones, and I think that's backed you publicly pretty quickly after it. Was there any conversations between like your teammates or your mates and the people who you were close to within that squad who kind of saying, hang on a minute, how come he's saying that in the press? Because it's bang out of water in my opinion.
Well, another thing which pissed me off as well when I was playing is I was captain of Cardiff, so for me that was, I was so proud. And then he knew my contract was coming to an end, and I'm best mates with Mark Hudson, like I'm godparents of his children, and Dave called me and said, I'm taking the captaincy off you, I'm going to give it to Mark Hudson. And for me, that, hurt me, pissed me off. And then I was thinking, do you know what? You want me to try and sign a new contract, which you saying you're praying that you want me to do, which I've never even seen. But then that's going to make my mind even more against it, which I never had. But I thought, you know what? And Hudson was an amazing captain, better than me off the field. For me, I was just wanting to just concentrate on football, but he organised a lot of things. But I was thinking it's dealing it in the wrong way. But I was still waiting for this contract. I never had the actual official offer until after the playoff final. And it wasn't even Ridsdale, it was Steve Borley. And I said to Steve, I'm speaking to a lot of clubs, a lot of money. If I don't become the highest paid player, I wasn't demanding, I just thought what I've achieved, I was captain, went to the playoffs, I'm a Welsh international, I want to be the highest paid player at Cardiff. And he said to me, I can't do that. We can give you this. And I was like, no, I know what people was on. People talk. And I was like, that is not good enough. I want to be the highest paid player. And it's not being greedy. I was on the lowest from the age of 19 to 23. So 4 years. And I thought, but again, it's different. When you come from the academy, they treat you a lot different. They do. They treat you like they think you're still an academy player. And I said to Steve, thank you so much. Like, you're the only person who's actually rang me and offered me a contract, but it's not going to happen unless I'm having that. And they turned around and said, Joe, we can't give you that. And I said, right, I'm gone. I don't think they believed I was going to do it. That was a scary thing. I don't think they realised I was going to leave. And I left.
That's good for you. That's why we don't care for you.
Did Jay the highest paid player at that time?
Chops was the highest paid, yeah. I don't know whether he had something in his contract, but he had to be highest paid, I don't know, but they wouldn't give it to me anyway.
Yeah, I think he did mention something along those lines when we did one with him. Actually,
It'd just be 1p more, like, on Sunday.
Joe, you're not going to bad influence in the change rooms, but he was all over more money.
Not really, because Chops is brilliant, to be fair. He's
But it's a team game, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And when you're playing against people who, Gavin Rager's probably on more than me. And when you're...
Did that fix you off, though?
Yeah, deep down it does, yeah, 100%. It's like anyone who's in this, if you're a plasterer and you're on less and you're doing double the amount, you're going to get pissed off. Because I even like, So yeah, but you know, I was promised certain things and certain things didn't happen, and it just you get treated completely different as a academy player.
It's about feeling appreciated, isn't it, as well? It's like when you're an academy player, you expect to be one of the lower paid players. But then as you go through, the questions will be in the second half, mate. Okay? I'll tell you what, it's just going to be a free fall. So like, you've got to feel underappreciated, haven't you? Even though it's your hometown club, and even though, you know,
It's always been appreciated.
but I also, we appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate the fact that you're able to tell the story properly, because you were painted as the villain, you were painted as like, you turned down the move from Stoke, and you didn't sign a contract, but actually they didn't give you a contract offer.
No, they didn't. I went to Pulis always wanted me. I don't know why. He eventually did further down the line, but I went with my agent to Stoke, and I went there, and Tony really wanted me, but then he said the compensation, because I was an international, I was captain of Cardiff, I played to him, I didn't know what it was going to be, but in that conversation, I was playing centre midfield at Cardiff, and he was talking to me like I was going to play left back at Stoke, and I was thinking the last thing I want to do with fucking Stoke is play left back and get bombarded, get out my feet and just hit as hard as I can on the channel. So I left that conversation with my agent. My agent, the minute we left, he said, "What do you think?" I went, "I'm not sure about that." He said exactly the same thing. He said, "I don't think you can play left back." I said, "I don't think I can play left back in the Premier League against these." Going back when I was quick as fuck, I went really slow at a quick time. So I was thinking against these wingers, it's not going to happen. So I left that conversation. And to be fair, a lot of these Premier League teams were umping and ahhing about compensation because I was 23 at the time, so they didn't know if it went to court, it could have been 2, could have been 8. They didn't know how much it was going to be.
And then, like obviously you moved to Celtic and very, very successful there, playing at the absolute top level. Did it grate on you though for a bit, like the way you were portrayed and kind of leaving your hometown club? Did it bother you afterwards, or were you able to kind of leave it behind you?
Yeah, I remember Blackpool in the final. I was crying my eyes out because I knew more or less I was going to be leaving, and it pissed me off. I remember looking at every single player in that room and just thought, "You let me down." Obviously they didn't, but I was thinking like my life now is changing. I've been brought up in Cardiff, and I'm going to have to move now because one 9-minute game, and it changed your life. But looking back, for the best, 100%.
So, on like a bit more of a jovial subject, before we move into the break, we'll talk about 2016 with Wales. It's a very, very special time. I think most Welsh fans from like my age and up, we never expected to be in a tournament, so we kind of got to come to terms with not getting there. So to qualify and then have the run that we did was obviously special for fans. But talk us through, the qualification and then the tournament.
Yeah, so obviously going back to superstitions at the time, I can't remember. I think it was Bosnia and it might have been Cyprus the first 2 games, and I had normally I had stubble on my beard, but it was a little bit more than that. And we went off undefeated, and the boys said, "Right, lads, you can't shave your beard. Like, we're doing so well, don't shave your beard." So I was like, "Okay, I'll keep it." And obviously in my mind then I was thinking, right, I'll keep it because we're on the running streak. And we ended up, Israel away was an unbelievable performance. We got booed off actually. It was Andorra. We got booed off after the game. Scraped a 2-1 win, very poor but terrible condition, and then the best defeat of my life was Bosnia away. To qualify for the major competition was just incredible. The group of players we had from such a young age, when we were 17, 18, to qualify like that and the way we did, the whole nation was just erupted, and it was just fantastic. And I remember playing Bosnia, and we were thinking, right, fucking hell, we're going to pull in now Cardiff Airport, there's going to be thousands of fans, thousands. planes come in, we're like, right, obviously they probably round the corner. got off the plane, got the bus down to the terminal. We're thinking, right, it's a bit quiet, let's have a look. Went through the terminal, I think there was a guy walking his dog. Didn't have a clue what the fuck has happened. And we went straight on the bus and we were like, right, that's fine, they know all the fans know where we're staying. They're going to be at St David's Hotel. It's going to be murder getting off the M4, down the dual carriageway, come off the down Cardiff Bay, turn right, that's St David's, look that, no one there. So I was thinking, wait there, then obviously the news probably hasn't broke out yet, whether Wales are fucking qualified. So then we got into the hotel, not even congratulations or anything. So I said to the boys, I said, I'm not having this. Right, go to your rooms, get changed, we're going over to Salt Bar and we're having it off now. Even though we had a game against, was it Israel? There we go. We had Israel at home about 3 days later. And I remember we went over to Salt Bar, the gaffer was brilliant, he's like, yeah, do what you need to do. Went to Salt Bar, finished up, went back to the hotel, me and James Collins then went all the way through till the next day. Woke up the next day, had a few more, and then my phone rang then, day before the game, I looked, it was Chris Coleman. I said, no, I've done here, Bill must have done something wrong. Alright Joe, can you meet me at reception please? Yeah, no, he's gaffing me down now. Obviously I'm still a little bit, here you go. I'm not playing you, I'm not going to start you. I said, what do you mean you're not going to start me? I want a cap, I want to play. No, Joe, honestly I can't. You only just finished drinking 24 hours ago, right? If you get injured, I'm in dog shit. So I didn't play. Me and James didn't play. We were still pissed, I think. But rightly so. You know, we went all out attack, me and James, and it was just a remarkable thing. But I was just so surprised that it just didn't seem like we qualified.
It took time, but once that wave of the fans took hold after that, I think it was safe to say that the Welsh went to France and had a good time. What was that like? I know what it was like from fans' perspective, but what was it like from the players' perspective when you get out for the tournament and you see just, like we're so used to over the years, historically, English fans, Irish fans, Scottish fans, to finally see Welsh fans at a major tournament was incredible. But as a player, it's got to have been quite surreal as well.
Honestly, it makes me smile every time I talk about it, because it was just, everyone just came together. It was such a unique thing which you've never seen. But going back previous, people probably don't remember, we played Sweden in a friendly. Obviously I fractured my leg, so I didn't play. I think Joe Allen didn't play, so we were on the bench. We got absolutely annihilated. We lost 3-0. And we were on the plane and we were thinking, Jesus Christ, like, just speak to your missus. We're only going to be here for about 10 days. Book your holidays. I think Neil Taylor booked Beyonce. Gents has booked the statue. I'm looking on booking.com, ready to book the flights. But we got absolutely annihilated. I remember James Collins, Ashley Williams, who said, Ash, go and tell Gaffer if we can have a few drinks. So the gaffers, I've one or two. We took the whole tray of beers. We turned up to DNAD, absolutely wrecked it all, put a show on for us, and we were all like, but that off the pitch, we were absolutely brilliant. Everyone loved it. It was just one of those things where you can't buy. It was like a club environment when you go in. We're like brothers, and if someone hits someone in the game, you know that player's going to get hit, or someone's got your back. And we played Slovakia the first game in Bordeaux. I was on the bench, but Wayne Hennessy, who I used to room with, he was my roommate. He had a bad back, so our room was fucked. I got one leg, Wayne hasn't got a back. There's a lot of questions about what's going on in our room. We went for breakfast, and for some reason this hotel had a massive window going straight through a corridor, and we looked out to the left-hand side. There's a pub over, and you could see full of red fans, and obviously they've noticed us, and they were going off. And I was thinking, I fucking love to be in here with the next. I'll try and play this game now, but honestly, it was just you pinch yourself and you just know you've done it. Whatever happens, we didn't care whether we got knocked. We didn't care if we didn't get a point. It was just to see Wales in a major competition was just an unbelievable achievement.
We did get a point. And another one. And you kept going. Was there a worry? You mentioned that you fractured your leg before the tournament. Was there a worry for you that you weren't going to make it? Because you ended up playing, I think, you played a part in every game, didn't you?
Yeah, apart from the one which I was still hungover with. But yeah, I played in all of them, and big fucking fat Charlie Adams fell on my leg and fractured it. I thought I pulled my calf at the time. I was playing Crystal Palace and Stoke, and we were winning. And I said to Wayne was in goals, and I was like, obviously come over, and I was like, something don't feel right here. I think I pulled my calf. I think it was a goal kick, so I ran up to halfway line. I was thinking, this is not right, like something's not right. So I went down, physio come on, put me in the boots, and I was expecting to have like a big calf strain. So he sent me for the MRI scan. There's nothing on there, so he said we're going to have to do an X-ray. And there's a hairline fracture, a big fracture going all the way across. And I was thinking, oh my God. And luckily I had the physio, Sean Connolly, who stood at Wales now, was my Crystal Palace physio. And Pardew and the doctor was all there. And I'll never forget this. I hated Pardew, he hated me. We didn't have that. Honestly, well, he's just a dick. And he said, I remember these words, he said to me, well, that's your tournament over then. And I just burst out crying like when he left. I was like I've worked so hard to get this nation to a major competition. And like physio said, Joe, don't worry, we will give you the best treatment and do the most as we can. And I was in oxygen chambers at 6 o'clock in the morning in London on crutches, getting a tube there, sitting in there for an hour and a half, coming back to the training ground, getting treatment. I'd done everything. I was taking all these supplements, I was eating yogurt and fucking honey and stuff like that, and I was thinking anything which could make anything better. And the progress started, I could just feel myself. It felt too early, it felt too good to be true. I had all these bone detecting stuff which tried to regrow certain cells, and Cookie said to me, Chris Goldman said, right, we went to Portugal, he said, right, you need to be fit in a week, otherwise I can't bring you because someone else is missing out. And I said, I totally understand, but I just hit the gym, I done everything I could, and then all of a sudden I'm coming on in the first game. It was just fucking out. I don't know how we done it.
Who's the dancing next? Who's the dancing?
I did Guinness as well.
Guinness is good for the bones. Here's a question for you then, just a bit off the cuff, I suppose. Do you think that game against Portugal, we win? I know we said earlier, hindsight's easy, but do you think that Wales win that semi-final versus Portugal if Aaron Ramsey and Ben Davies play?
I don't know about win, but it would have been would have been a completely different game. I personally think, I'm not just saying it because he's one of my good mates, but I think Aaron Ramsey in our Euros is the best player. I think he was better. He was better than Balo. Then Joey Allen was close to me, but I think Aaron and Ben Davies is Ben Davies, you know, he just goes under the radar, but he's always a 7 or 8, and he's a fantastic player. I think it might have been a totally different game, but playing that game, I remember we were good. We were good in possession. We could play football, but normally we're up against these big teams. It's more counter-attacking football. Where when we played Portugal, they sat back and let us have the ball. So I was thinking, this is different. We're not used to having so much of the ball. We're thinking, you know, we just couldn't break them down. And then I watched the game the other day. Ronaldo, you know, you can't defend against that. You can't mark anyone with him, but he's just a freak of nature which can jump so high. And it's a deflected goal, and we went so far, and we just knew we couldn't get to the final. And I was absolutely devastated.
So let's finish part one on a positive. How did you feel when Hal Robson Cardiff sent that Belgian defender to the shots?
It was a brilliant goal, but I am telling you now, Hal Robson I've never seen him fucking do that in training ever. He's got the worst technique I've ever seen as a forward. So when I saw those two Belgian defenders go for a hot dog, I would have gone for a fucking hot dog. But that game was just remarkable because we were absolutely shocking. The first 20 minutes, we were all over the place. It's a brilliant goal. Wayne Hennessey's got no chance. All of a sudden, it's just a switch. Something happened. We absolutely dominated. But the person in that game which don't get credit was Sam Vokes. His goal, looking back, that header was unbelievable. But Hal done that, and he probably say he can't do that ever again.
Like even Gunter being on the right wing in the 90th minute and putting in a cross like that, and obviously Vokes knocks it in, and you're right, it's one of the best headers you'll see. What we'll do now is we'll take a sort of 10-15 minute break. If you guys want to have photos with Joe and stuff, crack on. I'm going to go to the toilet because I'm busting. And get a drink.